Good morning from the beautiful town of Dijon in Burgundy, where today I'm going to record for you an outline of the project that's a joint exercise between computer science with Professor Gill and wine business, being my graduates in the sales management and marketing course for this fall 2024 semester. And as you can see on screen, the name of this project is using OCR to measure purchasing diversity in wine invoices. I can't remember the acronym exactly, but I believe it's optical character recognition. And so essentially what we're doing is taking a month's worth of sales data from a liquor retailer on a day-by-day basis to identify the items that sell during peak periods and slow periods. Of what we're doing is calling it purchasing diversity. In other words, we're measuring the distinction between when people purchase something that's more homogeneous in characteristics versus periods where people are more likely to pick something diversified. And essentially the aim from a business perspective is to look at identifying means for using your resources more effectively to encourage staff to intervene, or just to essentially point and help, or to keep out of the way of the customer. So there's a practical benefit based on the sample for wine business, and of course it's an opportunity for computer science students to use machine learning exercises to automate processes that are otherwise arduous or challenging in the greater sense of the word. So let's go into the details of this project and explain a little bit about what it entails. It started based on the experience that I had as a professor last year with Professor Gill's class. Last year, I sat in on their presentations and was absolutely blown away with the quality of the experience, and certainly from a business professional's perspective, it was clear to me that not only was there a lot of information being diffused, but as a business person, I was focusing on those things that were important to know, rather than focusing on the detail of how the computer science project went. So because we're trying to develop a relationship between computer science and business, because computer science graduates and professionals are going to need to be able to explain to a business operator how and why their project is helpful, whether for funding and for time and those sorts of things. And of course, the business people need to learn what is more important for them to be able to make those decisions. So let's look at the resources that are being used and put into measurement for this project. Essentially, we've got 31 days worth of sales data from a liquor store, and that is broken down into day-by-day journal entry of every single sale that was taken in this liquor store. So we can look at the differences within each day's worth of operation, and then looking at the differences across different days. They were collected for every day in December 2022. Now, for those of you who don't know, the last 3 months of the year in retail in particular, and certainly in the liquor industry, that's often where most sales are made. Champagne, for example, more than half the sales of champagne in any one year are sold in the last 3 months of the year. So it's a particularly busy period. But the other thing that's going to make it interesting is that there were promotions done once or twice a week across every week in December. So we're going to be able to look at the difference between those days that did have promotions and those that didn't. For those in computer science, there's also supporting material. There are still images of a planogram for each sales panel in store, so that if you wish to, or if you need to, you can certainly look and make a connection between the items that are sold and where they are located in store. And for each group doing the project in computer science, not just this particular project, but has been assigned a grad student or myself as a presentation mentor. So the goals that we're trying to put in place for this project from a business perspective is for you to compile a list of the purchasing items in which, the purchasing times in which the top 20 wines were sold for on each day. And the project contains two parts to it. In essence, this is what I'm hoping to achieve. And I want to point out that not only is it's not only, it's not essential that we can do all this. This is basically because as a business person, I'm giving you an idea about the sorts of things that I would find interesting or important, but whether they are possible or not is only going to be realized when communicating with you or with the computer science students. So it'll give you some idea about what's possible and what's not. So I'm going to outline what I'm hoping to achieve, and in response, you of course will be able to tell me what can and can't be done. And so with that in mind, the first part of the project, and this is kind of the essential as the starting point, is that having taught or having put together a program which can analyze the difference in sales items for the top 20 sales items between the two cash registers used in the store. There are two places in which sales are made in this retail environment. One of them is at what's called the drive-through. Most liquor stores in certain parts of Australia have an area where you can just drive up and say, this is what I want to order. And the other cash register has all the other sales items for people who've been walking around in store. So if people walk into the store, that's one type of a sale, and those who just drive up, they use the other cash register. So it will help to identify kind of peak periods of brand sales concentration. My hypothesis is that the drive-through customers, the sales made at the drive-through register, are likely to be most of the more popular items or the items that are bought quickly. So I don't know if that's the case or not. So it'll be interesting to see if that's the case. So essentially, we'll be able to come up with a finding whether that hypothesis is correct or not at the end of this, thus allowing for publication, which of course anyone and everyone can be involved in if they wish to do so. And after doing that, we'll be able to summarize the peak periods and distinguish between the quiet periods and differences by cash register sales. So that in and of itself is really just a great starting point. Just to have the outcome and be able to illustrate the differences, and there may be none. So it might end up being a moot point, but that's still a publishable finding in that case. So we'll start with that point. That's part one of the project, and then if we're able to, ideally, it would be good to do part two, which I'll go into now. Okay, so let's look at the goals for part two of the project. And these are taking part one's results as benchmarks for the top wine brand targets. So we'll look at those 20 top wine brands and compare those to periods where the top 20 aren't sold as comparisons. And so we'll compile sales data in general for what happens across the month's worth of data we've got. But what would be really interesting and an excellent project, certainly for publication purposes, is to look at the outcomes of the in-store promotions that are done across the month. So we can look at composing a chronology of sales for each of those brands that are promoted and look at the sales of those brands before the promotion was done in store and compare those sales data in the week prior to the promotion and then from the day of the promotion for the following week. So what we would get then is a comparison of the different outcomes between the periods in which the promotion is made, and then what it's like or compared to for the periods afterwards. So we get to see the impact of the promotion on the day and whether there is any lingering effect for the week following, or at least until the next promotion is done in store. So we get to see some conflicting or correlating effects, and by having this as an experimental design. Now, of course, a lot of that's going to depend on the time that you've got. So we'll have a look and present results to both parts of the project if we get the chance to do so. So there's a lot of really good potential to identify research and how well that works. But of course, you've probably got or you may have some questions. And certainly if in the case that you do have questions, please make a point of sending them to this what's called Slido. It's a polling tool that I use in the classroom. I've left that open. So anyone who wants to post questions, you can post them anonymously if you wish to, but ideally it would help if when you post the question, you put your name or the name means in which you want to be addressed. And you put whether you're a wine business or computer science so that everyone can actually see those and we can go over those questions. So do that. If you've got any questions about the project, please feel free to contact myself or Professor Gill in the event that you have any other questions that you want to ask separately. I'm just looking forward to getting involved in this project, and certainly I'm doing my best to help out. I'll certainly be advising on this part of the project for the wine business mentor and the computer science group that's involved in it. I'm happy to be involved, but I'm also going to offer my time as a means to mentor other groups if there's any interest in doing so, or getting some insight on the sorts of things that are helpful. So thanks very much for your time. I hope that's been helpful and communicative. I'm looking forward to getting involved in this project. Please make a point of getting on and getting those questions out as soon as possible. And I look forward to working with all of you across the rest of the semester.